Hi, my name is Levitt. I'm from Los Angeles, California, and I'm an artist. When I look at a blank canvas, most of my ideas aren't necessarily created before I start painting. It kind of comes along the way. And when I do that first paint stroke, it most of the time ends up getting covered by something else, but if you don't start somewhere, then nothing's gonna be created along the way. I feel like it's a great way to get your ideas onto canvas, and I think the best part is walking away from a piece and being so proud of yourself. That's the best feeling, when you stand back and you're like, wow, I made that. With the PTSD that I struggle with, it's a constant reminder of like a loop going on in the back of my head of the accident replaying over and over itself, and I found that doing art was the only time where I got a break from that. My childhood was, I would say, a lot different from the majority of people. I grew up with an amazing family and the most supportive system with amazing friends as well. But during my childhood, I had a burn accident that happened at the age of 9 that kind of flipped my whole world upside down on March 31st, 2011. The bell rang, and I remember both of us being super excited because it was our first time having a sleepover at her house. Sun started to go down, and we decided, I think it's time that we go to your parents, who were sitting on a patio outside watching us swim. We got out of the pool and we sat down with her parents. There was a Napfire gel candle in the middle of the table. Even with the smallest bit of flame, when you pour the gel onto the candle with it still lit, it explodes. And so when he went down to go pour the gel in, the candle exploded. But what was even worse was the fact that not only did the flame just take over, also, the gel also exploded onto my body. So now I have the flammable gel stuck onto my skin, which then caused the fire to attract to me. Because the explosion was so much, I was thrown out of my seat and I hit the back of my head on their brick floor, and that's when my body was just engulfed by flames. When I was admitted to the ICU, that's when my parents met Dr. Grossman for the first time, and he sat down my parents in the waiting room. He told them, "We're not sure if your daughter is going to live or not. She has 48 hours until we can decide what the next step is." What I had on my body was third-degree burns, and to be more specific on where they were, I'm burned on both of my thighs, both of my hands. The top part of my left ear is actually fake. It melted off, so they did plastic surgery on that and gave me another ear, which is kind of cool. I was burned all over my entire face, and I would say third-degree burns was more directed towards underneath my chin. I had a very difficult time getting myself back onto my feet, but of course I didn't have a choice and I was forced to, so the doctors picked me up out of bed and they held me and they made me walk.
Lauren, look at me. Lauren, look at me. No. Lauren, you gotta stand up. Come on.
You're doing good. There. You're almost there.
Stand up tall, baby. You can do this.
All the way.
Yes, you can.
I've had over 20 surgeries, which is definitely the reason why I look the way that I look. And part of me has always felt very guilty about still not being necessarily happy with the way that I look, because there are other burn survivors that aren't as fortunate as I am. My friends came to the hospital once. They made signs that said, "We love you, Lauren." And I would sit there peeking through the blinds because I was so scared that they would see my reflection.
For each one of them and they can put them down. No. Well, hold on until she gets up.
That's so fun.
You basically sit there in pain and you just turn on the television and you come up with ways to make the time go faster, even though it just doesn't at all whatsoever. And that's when I think I started making a lot of art, because the time was going by so slow and I wanted to be productive while I was in the hospital. We'd go into their so-called playrooms for like the little kids, and Linda Garcia, my therapist, would sit down and she'd bring me canvases and a bunch of art supplies, and I would sit there and I'd just paint all day. But I wouldn't say it was my best pieces just because my hands were covered in gauze, but I think the reason why I described myself as persistent is because there was never a day where I'd let myself not be able to pick up that pencil and start sketching, regardless of what was the barrier and stopping me from doing that. When I left the hospital, my friends and my mom's friends, and I guess basically anyone that was a huge support team, fundraised this art studio in my backyard, and they were able to make and buy a bunch of art supplies for me, so when I came back home from the hospital I could sit down and just have endless amounts of things to do while I was stuck inside. And two, it really helped me because I wouldn't be able to be out in the sun and be with my friends. Some of my art is just completely random, and then a lot of my pieces when I was building my portfolio for school was based off of my burn accident. So for example, like that one over there, teeth falling out is a symbol of death, and that the life is beautiful is just like a reminder that regardless of like what has happened in the past, like there's always beauty in life, and that's the reason why you should keep pushing through. I think this experience has shaped me into a completely different person just because I grew up at such a young age. 37% of my body was burned, and I do think that 30% of that I'll never get back, and it didn't just take away materialistic things, it took away a lot from my childhood and growing up as a young girl. It definitely put life into perspective. To anyone out there watching this that is dealing with a hardship or something that they're having a difficult time overcoming, just remind yourself that what feels like the end is often the beginning, and on behalf of myself, just keep living.